In this video, we're going to review the basic derivative rules that will be necessary for this course. So the first rule is when something is multiplied by a constant. So if I have, for example, a times x, where a is a constant, and I'm taking the partial derivative with respect to x, then that is equal to a times the partial derivative of x with respect to x, meaning that you can pull any constant outside of the derivative, take the derivative, and then multiply it back on. So since the derivative of x with respect to x is just equal to 1, then that means that this is equal to a times 1 with just a. With numbers, this would be, for example, that the derivative of 10x is equal to 10, because the derivative of x is equal to 1, and the constant comes outside, and so it just ends up multiplied on the front. So it's 10 times the derivative, which is 1. Next rule is if I have x multiplied to some power. So x raised to the n, the partial derivative of x to the n with respect to x is equal to, I take this n that's on top and I pull it down in front. So the n becomes n times x to the n minus 1. So hopefully that looks familiar to you, but the power comes down, multiplies in front, and then the exponent is always decreased by 1. So with numbers, if I had, for example, x cubed, then the derivative of that with respect to x would be equal to the 3 comes down times x to the 3 minus 1, or 3x squared. The next rule is that when we're dealing with a sum or a difference, meaning when I'm adding or subtracting two parts of something, like if I have x to the n plus ax, and I'm taking the derivative of the entire thing with respect to x, so I'm taking the derivative of this whole sum, then that is equal to me taking the derivative of the first part with respect to x and adding separately the derivative of the second part with respect to x. And that's going to be very convenient for us because we can break it up into two derivatives, meaning I can do this first one, and like we just showed from our previous rule, that's equal to nx to the n minus 1, and then I can just add on the derivative of the second part, which we showed in our first rule, is just equal to a. The same thing is true if this was subtraction. If this was subtraction here, then it would also be subtraction here and here. The last rule that I'm going to cover in this video has to do with logs. So we will do a video later reviewing log rules, but if I have log of x or ln of x, and I take the partial derivative with respect to x of either of these, then the answer is 1 over x. And that's true for any log function, that the derivative of the log is 1 over whatever is inside the log. We'll use that rule later. That's all we're going to cover in this video. If you continue on to the next video, we'll cover the chain rule, the product, and the quotient rule, and that will complete our review of derivatives.